So much of our textiles, like with our clothing and in our home, are mass manufactured. I like actually being able to make something myself with materials that will last. I've been interested in fabric, yarn, ribbon, fibers my whole life, like since I was a little kid. I saw my grandmother sewing and quilting and doing all kinds of creative work. I got really interested in modern quilting and all the interesting things that people were making with fabric that look completely different than what you associate with quilting normally. And I thought, well, I want to do that. That looks really creative, and I already was completely in love with the materials, so it was like, okay, I want to make that. To someone who's not familiar with my work, I would describe it as textural, whether it's from yarn or fabric. And I like to make monochromatic pieces, play with like a tonal aspect, and work with really limited color palettes. But at the end of the day, all of my pieces are made to be used and enjoyed. I'm really drawn to natural materials as much as possible, like cotton and linen. With incorporating upcycled materials into my work, sometimes you use what's there. And you're trying to keep things out of the waste stream and keep textiles, here in our homes and not in the landfill. All of my pieces are one of a kind, and so there was a lot of thought going in, before the project was even started. I'm usually pretty happy to have finished a piece, not because I'm looking forward to the work being done, but because I've created something that I had in my imagination, and now it's complete. It's actually visible to others, so. When I have a challenge in my work, it's usually because what I'm working on doesn't necessarily match the picture of what I had imagined. And so sometimes I'll put my work away for a while and work on another project. And I tend to bounce back and forth between sewing and weaving. And this kind of gives me a mental break. And I'm constantly solving art problems, and I'll sometimes wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, I've solved that problem. I know how to fix this. It's this ongoing process, and I tend to have multiple projects going on at the same time, and I can return to them when I'm satisfied with the direction I'm going in. There's a lot of thought about how to use even the smallest piece of fabric. And I actually really enjoy that aesthetic. I think it makes some interesting movement. So these pieces are made with really tiny, this is less than 1 by 1 inch here. I just enjoy playing with that, and I have a ton of scraps. I have about 10 pounds of fabric scraps that are continually being taken from and added to. And once people realize you will upcycle their table runners, shirts, whatever, people come out of the woodwork to give you things. And I actually like incorporating other people's textiles into my work. Finding time to make art is a constant struggle, and it varies at different seasons of my life. It's been easier to find time, and then there are times, when it's not, but it's like an old friend. You could just return to it when you can, and it's like no time has been lost. Meeting other artists definitely has propelled me forward. I just enjoy talking with other people about their creative work and how they're balancing everything, and I'm interested in what people are doing with their work and how it changes over time, and really forming a community of friends who are creative. That definitely influences my work, and then being able to bounce ideas off of them and say, well, did you see this new thing? In Tacoma, I've joined a sewing club that meets at the Tacoma Art Museum, and I also have met people through the studio tour and Arts at the Armory, and it's a really supportive community here. And there's a Weavers Guild here, there's a Quilting Guild. There are just so many resources down here for people who are interested in creating, and there's a lot of support for each other.